Maybe you've seen the Netflix documentary, The Truth and Tragedy of Moriah Wilson. That's a great true crime story. And every good true crime story starts with a 911 phone call. We're going to start with the 911 call made by Kaitlin Cash upon return to her apartment and finding the body of Moriah Wilson there.
What's the address of the emergency? Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
My friend is staying with me, and I just walked in, and she's laying on the bathroom floor, and there's blood everywhere. And I don't know what happened. I can't tell. I can't tell what happened.
Okay, I'll tell you what to do. I just need to gather a little bit more information. What's your name?
My name is Kaitlin.
Kaitlin, are you with her now?
Yes, I'm with her now.
Is she awake?
She's not awake. There's blood all over her face
Kaitlin?
and all on the back of her head.
Is she breathing?
No, she's not breathing.
Okay, I'm getting help started right now, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, okay?
Okay.
Listen carefully. Are you right by her now, Kaitlin?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Lay her flat on her back on the floor.
Yeah.
Listen carefully. I'm going to tell you how to do chest compressions, Kaitlin.
Okay.
And then pump the chest hard and fast, at least twice per second and 2 inches deep. Just pump hard and fast, and then count out loud so I can count with you.
Okay. 1, 2, 22, 23, 24.
That's good, Kaitlin. Keep that up.
21. Her brain is leaking. Her brain.
Okay, Kaitlin, I understand that, but keep going.
4, 5, 6. I think she's throwing up.
Keep doing those compressions over and over. Your rate is perfect. Just make sure it's deep and keep going just as fast as you were. Don't give up.
8. Okay.
Kaitlin, is that the police officers with you?
Yeah, that's the police officer.
That's very tough. That's tough to listen to.
That was a tough 911 call, but it's mostly by the number CPR. The problem is with an unwitnessed arrest, when you have a patient down, you really don't know what the cause could be. It could be any number of things. It could just be a cardiac arrest without any cause. But during this 8-minute phone call in which CPR instructions are expertly given by the 911 dispatcher, Kaitlin says that her brain is leaking. This is very upsetting. Not only it's just hard to hear, but it also indicates something that will start a pivotal change in this 911 call, and that it's changed from a medical situation to a criminal situation, because now we know that the patient here has critical head trauma, which is most likely caused by some kind of act of violence.
I've responded to a few of these scenes from my 29 years in law enforcement. You've handled more than a few of these in your 10 years as an active 911 dispatcher. It's harrowing dealing with the person that is dealing with this. I want to ask you a question before we go any further. What's it like talking to that person on the phone and trying to decipher whether or not they're actually involved in this, or just trying to walk them through doing CPR?
Do you mean if you could tell they're committed to the process? I think
Yes.
that's a great question, because it shows you a lot about what's going on with someone like Sarah Boone, who obviously was not compliant with CPR instructions and all, didn't even try because she knew at that time that her boyfriend George was dead. You can always tell when CPR is happening. They lose track of counting. They sound exhausted immediately. On any 911 call, they want to know where the responders are and why it's taking so long. CPR makes that 100 times harder. CPR is physically difficult. If you are pumping hard enough and fast enough to get that blood oxygenated and get the blood into the brain, you are going to wear yourself out. As a 911 dispatcher, I have zero suspicion at all that Kaitlin Cash is involved. And of course, that kind of colors the rest of the investigation, right? We've talked about priming before in the show, how a 911 dispatcher's initial impressions of an event get put out on the radio. They get put out as text in a CAD message for a computer display for a police officer driving to the scene.
There's DNA on a bicycle. There's a jailbreak 19 days before the trial even started, and the defense called it a nightmare of circumstantial evidence built on tunnel vision. But, all of these descriptions, they just come from this 11-minute interrogation in that 911 call, the same digital trail. So what those sources actually show is going to depend entirely on who's reading them and why they're interpreting them that way, and whether they've ever sat in that room. And because you and I have done that, that's, I think, what qualifies us to bring this information to.
I want you to know that I fought for Mo with everything I had that night. From the moment that I got home and started doing chest compressions, which was the longest 10 minutes of my entire life, I remember feeling so relieved when the police arrived, that help was finally there, people who really knew what they were doing and who could help me care for her. I fought for her afterwards when I was pulled from my home by police and taken downstairs. I initially refused to go to the police station that night because I didn't want her to be alone. In one of the Bodycam videos, I say something along the lines of, "I can't leave her. I'm the only one she has here." I couldn't understand why they weren't bringing her downstairs to the ambulance so that they could rush her to the hospital. I asked one of the officers why they weren't bringing her down. And that's when he told me that she unfortunately didn't make it.
She was going for an engineering degree at Dartmouth at the same time. This is the top performer.
And she finished her engineering degree. And you know what? That probably helped her, by the way. The engineering part probably helped her become a champion. You know, you got to understand the mechanics of the bike and wind speed and everything else. So this is a tragic ending to her life, but you're about to hear what it sounded like.
Heard on a neighbor's surveillance. Cash performed CPR for more than 5 minutes until EMS and police arrived. Wilson had been shot multiple times. Wilson was visiting from California, staying in this East Austin home. She was a professional cyclist preparing for an upcoming race nearby. Earlier in the day, she reconnected with a fellow professional cyclist.
Okay, so this is how we've set the stage. You heard the 911 call that Jon played you. Jon, did you see anything at the scene, or is there any connection between the 911 call and the scene that you'd like to point out?
Well, the 911 call is mostly a medical event, and that's when we get the transition over to criminal. When police get to the scene, they're going to realize that this is not the scene of a medical event. This is a crime scene, and they're going to be unpacking those things. But I wanted to say about the scream that you heard, just as a reminder, police officers, 911 dispatchers, they hear wails like that all the time. Grief when someone is informed or realizes the passing of a friend or loved one. And it's part of the job and it's part of the trauma that we carry. Go ahead, Drew.
Okay, so we now have actual body cam. And this is where you'll start to put together like her, Kaitlin Cash's activities, like on the 911 call that we have already indicated that does not look like she's involved in this, as sometimes can be the case. And you saw her a little bit just in the body cam a second ago, but this is important what she says here in this body cam footage.
She was with her friend Colin. Colin Strickland.
Okay, she says through her, through her tears and her panic almost, she was with our friend Colin, and she identified exactly who Colin was, a friend of theirs.
And you mentioned.
Now, what I want you to pay attention to here is they took Kaitlin from the home to the police station. She went voluntarily. And I talk a lot about body language when we talk about these interrogations, how we break them down sometimes. And just, I want you to look at her demeanor in the corner. She is completely defeated.
Yeah.
Her shoulders are slumped over. She's been beat to hell mentally. She's cooperating the best that she can. You'll hear some of the questions in a second. And as a matter of fact, I would credit her with actually solving this, like whether she knew it or not. She gave the information that solved her own, her best friend's murder, which should be, quite the honor in and of itself. But just listen to her answers. There's no stuttering. There's no, she thinks of an answer and gives it to them. And that's the flow an interview should be with a witness of some sort.
She's a great example of someone who's telling the truth. So often we're we're listening to 911 calls and we're reading body language and we're looking at footage from interrogations and we're trying to figure out, well, is this person telling the truth based off of little tells? Well, you need a baseline to compare that to. And this is a great person to compare that to.
So she's now at this point, they had taken a restroom break. The crime scene person has left, the forensic detective that was in there. She did a DNA swab, a buccal swab. She was collecting all of her stuff. It was a little distracting at times, but it's unavoidable. I mean, she needs to be in there. They probably photographed her hands and everything about her just to just to eliminate her, so to speak. And she's now back from the restroom. They gave her a blanket because she needed comfort. She was probably cold in there. And they gave her phone to try to scroll through and figure out what time the door was locked and unlocked.
So she left at 5:55 is when it was locked. And then it was unlocked at 8:36.
Okay, 5:35 it was when she left the home. 8:36 was when she unlocked the door to return home. Those times, John, they're very important. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, maybe not on this one yet, but take a look at this vehicle. Okay, so they have now a timestamp of when she returned home, so they can start looking around. There is a timestamp in that lower right-hand corner. They have a timestamp where they can start looking around for any vehicles that might have been in the area. They can check the condominiums next door to see if they have video surveillance. They could check with all of her neighbors. They can knock on the door and see if anybody physically saw something as opposed to a camera. But just at that moment, 20:37 is the time stamp on this video right here. You see a car creeping through the back alleys, like right by her house. And you wonder, is this the car? Did it stop? But wait till you see this. Oh, the brake lights illuminate the entire fence. So yes, it stopped like right in front of her house, right at the time that just seconds or moments after Moriah had entered, according to the timestamp on the lock. So we're starting to build the case here. We've got a black vehicle with some type of bike rack on the back. Moriah is a professional biker. And we now have this car creeping through the area right about the time that she gets home. You can also triangulate that with the time that Kaitlin Cash returns home. So they also start digging deeper into other surveillance video, maybe from the same camera, maybe from the front version of the camera. So the point of that was that they went to the neighbor's house, and right about that same time, the same time frame, this is the timestamps that we talk about, you hear the screams and you hear the gunshots. So now they back up a little bit even more. A couple hours prior to this, you could see this is, before 8:30. Obviously, it's still light out, and this is a neighbor's condominium, and you see that same black Jeep cruising through the neighborhood. It's got a black bike rack on the back. So now they've got a good vehicle. It's of interest. Okay.
Drew, is it pretty normal when you're looking at a case like this, now that we have extensive ring cam footage from neighborhoods, to really scrub through hours and days before and after to see if we're seeing vehicles returning to the scene that don't belong there? This is what you would call casing the place. Do you think that casing is a typical behavior in premeditated homicide?
Yes, especially in something like this.
It tracked her location as she was riding throughout the city, which at the same time also let her know exactly where she would be and when.
Moriah's murder, police visited and spoke to Colin Strickland at his home.
My personal take was he was being very cooperative, being very forthcoming. Obviously, he was in shock.
Being very transparent.
Very transparent, yeah.
There's really no easy way to say this, sir. So apparently last night she passed away.
A stunned Colin Strickland after investigators told him the woman he spent most of the day before with was now dead.
Right now it's an open investigation, but it is being investigated as a homicide.
Okay, John, crazy enough, but this guy is a professional bicyclist also. This is who she developed the relationship with. This is the friend that Kaitlin Cash was talking about. And this is the first kind of interaction we have with him. You heard the detective a second ago say, he seemed like he was being very cooperative. He looks stunned in this footage where they're informing him that the young lady you were with last night is no longer with us. She's gone. She's dead. And then you have to think too, like, what's going through his mind? I mean, endurance athletes might have heart issues, or, there could be a number of reasons why she died. He's not automatically jumping up and down asking if she was murdered, because I don't think that that's first on his mind, to be honest.
You don't want to believe that someone that you care about, I know that there's talk about what the nature of their friendship was, whether it was romantic or it was more, but you don't want to believe that somebody was actually murdered. That means there's violence close to you, there's violence in your life, and now you know someone that's been murdered. It changes the way that you think about the world, and you're ready to believe almost any explanation other than murder. Go ahead.
They're looking at his reaction to that. They're breaking the news to him. It's tough enough having to break the news to somebody, by the way. I think that gets overlooked a lot. But they're breaking the news to somebody about this this young lady who's no longer with us, and certainly he's going to have a reaction. It could be something like, "What? No," or like you hope if it's a suspect, they say, "Well, I didn't shoot her," without even offering that. He just seems to be shocked. He's genuinely shocked that and he's probably, there's probably a million things going through his mind at the same time, because he was not apparently romantically involved with Moriah at that point, but he certainly was hiding his activities from his current girlfriend, his live-in girlfriend. Remember, we have a timestamp now of a Jeep with a bike rack. We have, what else do we have? We have the person that found her dead, identifying the last person she was seen with. Then they go ahead and pay him a visit to get his reaction. But there's something special that happens. And this is from Plunder True Crime. This is the only place I could find this part of it. I just needed the screenshot here. They're walking up the driveway. You can see this is right in front of right under the thumb of the hand that you see in this video is the detective who just broke the news to Strickland. As they're walking up, though, they recognize a black Jeep with a wreck on the back. So they're going to get his consent to come down. He voluntarily comes with them to the police station.
I have more of a connection with her than you do with Kaitlin, honestly.
That's arbitrary statement.
No, it's just the way you talk about her.
These are different attributes. Would I want to be Mo's partner? I don't think so. She's way too quiet and reserved and not super fun-loving and playful.
Okay, I'm showing this to show you what his demeanor was during the initial interview. He's cooperative. They're challenging him. They're even saying, look, you're involved with her. You have a relationship with her. There's even a point where they point out that, or he points out, like, I had to change Moriah's name in my phone because I didn't, I wanted to have this like platonic relationship with her, but I was afraid my girlfriend was going to kind of see. So you can see his demeanor. Does it strike you, John, that he's uncooperative or he's scared about something?
Now he's leaning forward. He's got an open body posture. His legs aren't crossed. He appears to be somewhat relaxed, and I think he's ready to answer questions. It's just, I think if he has any reservations, it's because he doesn't look good, right? Having this murder victim's name in his phone under an alias, this black Jeep, which is a suspicious vehicle parked in his driveway. I think that he knows that he's not just a passing witness, that he's going to be an integral part of this investigation. And I'll be honest anymore, Drew, because of true crime, when you're involved with someone who passes away, especially if you're the opposite sex, you might be at the top of the list of suspects, and nobody wants to be in that place. So that could cause nervous behavior. It could cause him to want to get out of there, but he's also probably pretty desperate to exonerate himself. And knowing that he didn't do it, I think he's going to be forthright. Go ahead.
It's not an interrogation at this point, by the way. Interrogation and interview is two different things. They're two distinct terms. An interview is just a casual conversation with a purpose. You're trying to elicit information. You're trying to see if that's a suspect or not. Whereas an interrogation is determined by the harshness of the approach. And it's generally because you have additional information that makes you believe that they're involved. So an example of an interview would be like, I'm wondering if you can help me figure out who stole this iPad, versus an interrogation, which would be, I know you stole this iPad. I just want to know why. Right. Okay. So they're not at the stage with this guy. And you're right. He no legs crossed. He's kind of leaning forward. He's not hiding anything, like the usual body language or the posture of being closed off or hiding something. You can see you can see his girlfriend's inset photo in the corner there as she's being questioned. She actually is closed off a little bit. She's got her legs crossed. She's got her arms protecting like a vulnerable area. So,
and you detectives will do that on purpose. You put them in a corner. You don't put a table behind them so they can't hide. They feel very naked. They feel exposed, and like they're in a corner, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And if you'll notice too, all of them are in stable chairs that have legs, not wheels, and that's done intentionally so you can kind of see the body language. You can determine when somebody's shifting or trying to burn off nervous energy.
So is that what Kaitlin is, or?
I would describe her as, yes.
Okay.
Those attributes, which is why we get along. We're joking half the time.
Mm-hmm.
On the bike.
Is that Mo?
Yeah, that's Mo.
Notice also, he is very comfortable talking to the male. He's not as comfortable talking to the female, because she's calling him out on his bullshit, basically.
Yeah. And anytime a man hands over a phone, I'm thinking that he wants to do that to another man rather than a woman as well.
And this is a ton more complexity, but I have it saved as a different name just because I am a...
I got you. You said it's Christine.
Pretty much. I feel the right to have a friendship with this person without having like constant strife.
Yeah.
Sounds great. I'm dying out here at 3:47.
All right, to set this up, it was a quick transition, but this is a secondary interview. This is a couple of days later, and he is back with his attorney this time. And like people that are cooperative do that. Like, hey, you know, if you want to bring your attorney in, that's fine. Like, come on in. We just have some questions for you. We have nothing to hide from the attorneys. As a matter of fact, we kind of favor having the attorney there because they're there from the ground floor. So that's where we're at with this. You can see, you can barely see the attorney there, but you can see her shoe next to his leg, and maybe the top of her head there.
Yeah. The attorney helps you avoid any of those pesky discovery constitutional issues that you're going to run at your first suppression hearing, because the lawyer was there to assure that everything went above board. Not that a police officer is going to try to circumvent that, but the lawyer's already there. We're avoiding some trouble down the road. And also, if there's an extent to which this person can cooperate without incriminating themselves, then you're going to get something out of that rather than just having them sit there quietly. Go ahead.
Yeah, most definitely.
We knew that Kaitlin's car was outside of Cash's house. One of your first responses was, I knew I shouldn't have bought that gun.
When I showed you a minute ago the conversation they were having, what I didn't show you was later on in the conversation, he just, in a spontaneous statement, said, I can't believe I shouldn't have bought those guns. And they started asking him about the guns. They were having a conversation about guns, by the way. It wasn't out of the blue. And you're going to actually, I think that gives him a minute to clarify in a second here with the attorney. But when he asked him that question, you see his head pop up like a prairie dog. Like, I said that? Because he had just bought 2 9mm handguns. And it just so happens that Moriah was killed with the 9mm handgun because that was the shell casing that was left behind at the scene.
You remember saying that? I'm not. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah.
I don't remember saying that.
Okay.
But I immediately, just the fact that I have those in my sphere is like not why we're here, but that's a big fucking thing.
Yeah. And again, before all of that, we had already been talking about guns and everything. So I'm not saying that it's shocking that you brought up a gun at all. I'm not saying that whatsoever, because
we had already been talking about
100%. Exactly.
So the detective is doing his best to stay above board, especially with the attorney in there. Not that he wouldn't if the attorney wasn't in there. It just makes it a lot easier to show the attorney that we're staying above board here. We're just trying to get information out of your client. And he even offered, like, hey, we were already talking about guns. It's like, don't panic here. But you did make the statement, basically. And if he wanted to push the issue, he would have just, got the video and showed it to him. I don't think that the attorney disbelieves it. I don't think he disbelieves it, being the guy that's being interviewed.
Here's when police bring Strickland's girlfriend, Kaitlin Armstrong, in for questioning.
Sit right here in this chair, and someone will be with you. Do you need a water or anything?
That would be lovely, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Kaitlin Armstrong sitting down to be questioned at Austin Police Headquarters the day after Moriah Wilson was killed in East Austin.
You're here for a warrant right now, I guess. Are you familiar with what you have going on with that? I have no idea.
Armstrong had a warrant out for her arrest for a misdemeanor, a theft of service charge.
If I have an existing warrant and you don't know what it's about, do I need an attorney here?
Armstrong apparently failed to pay for Botox in 2018.
Okay, she asks a good question that I used to deal with a lot, because understand this. There is a pretext arrest. If she has a warrant for her arrest,
I'm guessing petty theft would be a PR bond. Like, there's no reason even, but you can talk to her now at the station. It's a reason to get her there.
It's a reason to arrest her because that's a judge's order. An arrest warrant or a capias or some kind is a judge's order. Bring that person to me, or bring them to be processed and fingerprinted and photographed. And it's illegal. It is a legal arrest, at which point you can transition the conversation into, by the way, and you'll see it get to that point. There's a snag in this one, though, John. This is why I say this case takes so many twists and turns.
Apparently that warrant, the date of birth was wrong. So it had your name, but the date of birth is wrong. So it's to a different person. So you're not under arrest, okay?
She was told she was free to leave.
The unarrest that occurs, because they do occur. Sometimes we get the warrant, the name wrong, or we get the date of birth wrong and we arrest the wrong person, so to speak. Or if we're just going to give them a benefit of the doubt, straighten out the administrative part and go back and arrest them at another time. The unarrest is a big deal. She just unarrested her. They arrested her, transported her to the police station, began to question her, realized that the warrant may not be her. That's a big problem. And whether I don't know that they were able to confirm, they weren't able to hold her. Therefore, the decision was made, we got to take those handcuffs off of her. She's free to go. We don't have enough we don't have a warrant for her for the homicide. We certainly have her here and we can talk to her, but that might be the purpose of her telling her, you are not under arrest. You are free to go.
If they didn't tell her, you'd be looking at significant constitutional problems, including false arrest and the falsification of documents. So far, where they are is that they confirmed a warrant. They messed up in the process. They have the wrong person there. Texas is a big state. A lot of people have the same names. A lot of people with the same names might even have similar dates of birth. You can get hits on those. But that's a good faith exception that you believe that the warrant was valid at the time you did the arrest. But as soon as you realize that there's a problem with this, you absolutely have to tell her that she's free to go. Otherwise, if you keep her there under false arrest, anything that she tells you is not going to be admissible in court.
You most definitely better call timeout. Timeout, slow everything down. If we've got the wrong person and we can't verify this, we cannot proceed with our plan to pivot this into a homicide, interview. However, nothing precludes you, once you tell somebody you're free to leave and they don't leave, to ask simple questions.
If they don't leave, it's on like Donkey Kong. Let's start talking about this homicide. We don't actually really care about petty theft here at the homicide division. Go ahead, Drew.
I would love to leave.
You would love to leave.
Just arrested me in front of my house, in front of all of my neighbors, and carried me in here in handcuffs in front of downtown Austin. It was incredibly
I can only imagine, and I'm so sorry.
Meanwhile, back at Armstrong and Strickland's house, detectives issued and executed a search warrant, looking through the home in Armstrong's black Jeep. They found a Texas license plate, a passport card belonging to Armstrong's sister, foreign currency, and 2 9mm handguns.
And I would like to leave.
She didn't leave immediately, though. Not until the investigator revealed information that linked her to the murder.
Your vehicle was seen next to her house.
I would like to leave if I'm free to leave.
Armstrong walked out and prepared to leave town.
Okay, I'll be real honest. I don't remember it being exactly like that, so I'm wondering if it was edited by the news people, by Fox 7 there. Yeah, I do know though that she said, "Yeah, if I'm free to leave, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I don't want to be a part of this, and I'm out of here."
Yeah, the cop knows you once she says out loud, "I want to leave." That if you continue, doing this Columbo thing, just one more thing before you go, that again, anything you say is going to be out. It won't be in the trial.
And if you'll notice, the door was cracked open or open, because that becomes an issue too. Like the defense attorney would attack that.
Right.
Yeah, they would say, "Well, you said she was free to leave. She wasn't free to leave. She couldn't leave."
Right.
So she skedaddles. She heads out.
May 17th, 2022, the Austin Police Department's ballistic unit positively identified one of those handguns as the handgun that fired the spent cartridge cases on Wilson's murder. That same day, a municipal court judge issued a warrant for Armstrong's arrest for the offense of murder.
So the NIBIN hit. The National Integrated Ballistic Information Network keeps track of what they're trying to do is consolidate, just much like a DNA database, much like a fingerprint database, trying to solve shootings. And they can determine, like, well, this gun produced this pattern on a shell casing, so that's how this was matched. It's not an exact science. However, it is growing to be an exact science. And that actually came out later in the trial. There became an issue with whether this is an exact science or not. That was good enough, though, from the probable cause standpoint, to say, we found these, we saw the vehicle, she can't account for her time, we found the ballistics, we ran it through NIBIN. We know from the search warrant we served at the residence that this gun belonged to her and her boyfriend. We know we can account for where the boyfriend was, obtained a warrant for her arrest. What she did from there, John, is where it all kind of takes a turn. She fled the country. There was mention just a second ago of having her sister's passport card, and she kind of looks like her sister. And she flew out of New Jersey by presenting that passport card down to Costa Rica. Once she got to Costa Rica, she began a series of plastic surgeries. Yeah, cosmetic surgery to not look like who she actually is. She doesn't want to look like her, and she doesn't want to look like her sister either. So she's just, I guess, planning on losing herself in Costa Rica.
The marshals took a ferry like this one to reach a remote peninsula. Once there, they drove by car through those mountains to the tiny town of Santa Teresa. But when they finally arrived, they ran into an unexpected problem.
Get to Santa Teresa. Was it easy to identify her there from the other people that were there?
I think from the get-go we were told, you're gonna be in for a surprise, because a lot of the women in Santa Teresa look just like Kaitlin. A lot of them.
And it turns out that advice was right. The town was full of foreign tourists.
So here's a flattering picture of her, but I think what the U.S. Marshals learned at that point was, like, this whole place, like, you can show me that picture, but that's every girl that's here. Every woman that is here looks exactly like that. They're all yoga instructors. They're all, digital nomads. They all work from their laptops in a beautiful villa somewhere in Costa Rica.
Back of her basic white girls. You thought that she would stand out amongst a country of native Costa Ricans, but the opposite problem happened.
Yeah, much bigger opposite problems happen.
So there is this massive international manhunt, and of all places in the world, it ends in this very discreet hostel.
Hostels are very common in Costa Rica, apparently. That's how people show up and stay. It's not necessarily hotels. I think the difference between a hotel and a hostel is that it's just like a common living area, and you share some of the facilities and such. But that's a common way of living in Costa Rica. Like they go to hostels, and there are plenty of hostels that offer yoga and stuff for tourists. So and surf, as you can see. So this is where they're at.
It was now time for the marshals to make their move.
And she was making her living as a yoga instructor at this time. Is that correct?
Yeah. So so what they ended up doing was they had an informant that determined that she's making her living as a yoga instructor. They took out some type of ad, like a Facebook. It wasn't necessarily an ad. It was maybe like a Facebook group of some sort.
It was a marketplace ad, I think.
Yeah. And they were saying that, we own this hostel and we want, we need a yoga instructor and we'll pay. And this Deputy U.S. Marshal here, just as they were getting ready to quit, just as they were getting ready to give up on this whole thing because they just could not find her anywhere, they got this tip that, oh, no, she responded to the ad. She wants to meet for an interview. And so it tracked her right back to that hostel where they were. And he approached her speaking only Spanish. So she didn't know exactly what to do because he was speaking only Spanish. And she took out her phone and her Google Translate app.
To me, and I got even closer, and I noticed that she had a bandage on her nose and possibly her lips were swollen. And I saw her eyes. The eyes are the exact same ones that I saw in the picture. And this is her 100%.
He gets in the car and he's like, that's her. She's in there.
Local police moved in to make the actual arrest. And soon the marshals discovered why Armstrong had been so hard to find. She had been getting plastic surgery when they first arrived in Santa Teresa. At the hostel, they found a receipt.
The receipt for surgery, plastic surgery.
In these side-by-side photos, you can see that Armstrong changed the shape of her nose.
So there she is. She changed the shape of her nose. Like what? If you're not involved in this murder, you don't need to flee to Costa Rica. You definitely don't need any surgery unless, this is something that you've been wanting to do. But
nobody wants an obvious downgrade.
Yeah. The photo on the right does not look like the photo on the left. That's for sure. That's
She's hoping that one obvious distracting detail, like having a bulbous nose, will just eliminate her. That if someone sees her and questions whether or not she's this person wanted by the U.S. Marshals, that the nose will just give her a pass. I'm not surprising that was the tactic she chose, and it was smart. It's just she can't completely obliterate her identity. This deputy U.S. Marshal needs to be commended for his commitment to that, because he could tell by the eyes. I mean, that's something you would see in a movie. Go ahead, Drew.
They're the windows to the soul, John. Okay, so we're going to fast forward a little bit to 19 days before the trial. Let's set the tone. Let's set the picture here. She's been captured. She's been in custody this whole time. She's waiting for her trial. She was in custody for over a year. She spent months planning her way out. She used a fake injury. She used a medical exemption from leg restraints. And then she put a pair of thermal pants, dark black pants, underneath her scrubs, her jail scrubs. And this was 19 days before trial. And somebody literally in the back of the doctor's office caught her escaping. You can even see the deputy. I'll rewind it just a little bit. You can even see the deputy chasing after her and falling down. So they captured her pretty soon after. John, I know that you have experience in transporting prisoners. What could have happened? What is the likely scenario here?
Well, it's important to realize that people don't just break out. Something like this is usually planned. And when you have exceptions to standard security protocol like restraints, when you take someone to a medical appointment, restraints are guided by standard operating procedures. The only person that can vacate those procedures is a commanding officer or a doctor. And if you're a patient and an inmate and you're complaining of something like some kind of soft tissue damage, if she's going to an orthopedic clinic, she could be complaining of an injury or something inhibiting her ability to walk. And so a doctor or a commanding officer will go ahead and waive a standard operating procedure of leg restraints. This is something that she obviously planned. She was getting ready to get on the run. And most escapes happen not from the most secure place, from the prison, but from instances just like these. I was taking inmates on medical appointments all the time, and you are a clenched fist and constantly analyzing them tactically. But every escape attempt that I know of that came close to becoming a finished escape was happening in the hospital. They tried to exploit weaknesses there. They're constantly checking for staff to be distracted. They're looking for weapons in their environment. The most dangerous place for an inmate to be is in the hospital. And she prepared for this. She knew that it was going to happen. You know, medical appointments are coming, especially when you have a protracted medical problem. You know that there's going to be a follow-up visit. And so you just bide your time. You prepare yourself, probably get into good shape, and you wait for your window of opportunity, and then you act, Drew.
She was dating an athlete for a long time, an elite athlete at that. She apparently did the right exercises for this particular escape attempt, increased her cardio, her VO2 max or whatever it was. But 19 days before the trial, she tried to escape. Luckily, she was caught right up the road. So now we move into the trial phase. This is the opening statement of the prosecution.
On May 11th, 2022 at 9:15 p.m. here in Austin, Texas. The last thing Mo did on this earth was scream in terror. And you hear those screams.
You heard. Defense attorneys always try the common tactics. They're going to destroy the cops' reputation at all costs. They're going to attack the investigation itself. And tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. They're upset that it only took us 90 minutes to make the determination that she was involved, that the defendant was involved. Therefore, they're claiming the investigative tunnel vision defense, so to speak.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's very convenient because there's actually not a predefined guideline for how long an investigation should take. We sometimes will be mad at the police for never solving a case. However, if you watch the first 48, you know that homicide's got to be solved within the first 2 days. So on a case like this, if it takes 14 hours, is that good or is that bad? It's being cast in the light of being a hasty and incomplete investigation that they jump to conclusions. But what are you supposed to do when you find the right person and every single clue and every piece of evidence and every witness testimony continues to point in the same place? You could say, you know what, I'm 90% sure that it's her, but we better go spend more time with this person who is thinking about fleeing the country. Let's spend more time trying to figure out who else it could be. And I don't think that it was confusing from the start. As soon as this homicide occurred and Moriah Wilson's bike was trashed, we saw a psychology and agenda at play that even the common true crime fan can detect, that it had something to do with cycling. And so that narrows down the list of people that are going to be involved to acquaintances of Moriah's, to the people that are in her life and also care about the fact that she was a cyclist. And so, again, we're 5 minutes in and we've already narrowed it down to a small list of people, but we should continue to investigate for how long until we're sure that it's a good investigation.
The state get up and tell you this is an open and shut case, right? There's DNA, ballistics, GPS evidence. The state's certainly convinced. That's all very important. So why are we here? You may already have your mind made up. I know Detective Richard Spittler with the Austin Police Department certainly did, just hours into his investigation. So why are we here?
Just like you say, John, the preamble of that show, the first 48, it's a show about homicide investigations. We'll tell you, the leads run cold after 48 hours. The homicide detectives sometimes stay up for those straight 48 hours straight. But when you've got a lead, you've got to run it down, and it's tough to ignore all of the evidence that was put in front of them that they obtained through the interviews and everything that I just showed you that built this case.
A person wearing gloves had their hands on.
This is the closing argument. I don't know how to characterize this defense attorney, so I'll just reserve it. You be your own judge.
On a driving steering wheel that had Kaitlin's DNA. Or Moriah Wilson had touched the same bike. Or the same helmet. Or the black jacket. I don't know. But I do know one thing. Every person that handled this bike handled it in the same way. It was arm day at the gym this morning, and this is still really easy because this is how you pick up this bike. But what the government and the police would like you to believe is that after a brutal slaying, that the way, and see how this tire is arranged, that the way then, Kaitlin Armstrong would have, I guess, wanted to hold the bike like this. That does not make sense. Everyone held it this way. And what's astounding, and this is what you heard from the APD expert, right here, on this portion of the bike frame, this was the area not swabbed for DNA. Why not? It was more appropriate for latent prints. Could you have swabbed for DNA? Absolutely. Why didn't you? It was more appropriate for latent prints.
I have to say that it's easy for him to lift the bike from the center bar, whatever you would call that, unless you're a female that's 100 pounds lighter and maybe you need a little bit more leverage and maybe you're pulling it out of a rack. I mean, that's just what I'm saying, hearing that for the first time as a juror, that there's more than one way to lift a bike, and I'm not going to disbelieve or believe any other evidence.
Okay, so this would be implausible, John, because you could probably lift that bike up with 2 fingers. It's a carbon frame. However, what he's trying to assert is that at the conclusion of this homicide, that this Moriah, was shot, the defendant walked outside and was consciously trying to figure out how to lift her bike and throw it into the bushes. We saw body cam of that and photographs of that. We probably didn't show it here, but they tried to the defendant tried to make this look like a robbery of some sort, some type of burglary robbery gone wrong. And she hid the bike. Well, the police found it, doing a quick search of the area right in the bushes, right, where it was. So was it rage? Was this just a statement of like, I'm going to trash your bike or whatever? I think the more like symbolic part of this, though, is with the victim's family sitting in the courtroom, this guy manhandled that bike, likened it to Arm Day, and very just kind of disrespectfully treated that prize bike that she had, that she was training with for another race before she was murdered. And he's just treating it like a piece of, it's just a piece of trash that is getting in the way of setting my client free. Yeah. And I don't think that did him any favors with the jury. I don't know that. I know it didn't do him any favors with me.
Right.
The defendant will please rise. In cause number D1DC 22301-129, the state of Texas versus Kaitlin Armstrong. Verdict of the jury. We, the jury, find the defendant, Kaitlin Armstrong, guilty of the offense of murder as alleged in the indictment, signed by the presiding juror on today's date, 2:14 p.m. You may be seated.
Now, Moriah's mother also said she was praying for Kaitlin's healing during her statement in the courtroom today. Now, Kaitlin Armstrong was facing anywhere from 5 to 99 years. The prosecution suggested the jury start at 40 years, but they ultimately decided on that 90-year sentence.
It's a strong statement, don't you think, John?
I think that they were setting an important one. 90 years sends a strong statement, and based on what the jury heard from the victims' impact statements, I'm not surprised, Drew.
So it's not over yet. There's still a civil trial in the works. It's not, that hasn't been resolved. It's a $15 million, wrongful death lawsuit. there's a lot of shenanigans going on, apparently, with shifting of assets and all kinds of, like, it just keeps going and going and going. This poor, Moriah's poor family, they're just, humble people from Vermont that just lost a daughter. And, I just don't think it's fair to them, but we should give the mother a voice.
Kaitlin Armstrong. I'm not sure if my words can penetrate your heart, but I'm gonna try. I hate what you did to my beautiful daughter. It was very selfish and cowardly, that violent act on May 11th. It was cowardly because you never chose to face her woman to woman in a civil conversation. She would have listened. She was an amazing listener. She would have cared about your feelings. She was a caring, empathetic person. If you allowed yourself to actually know her, you never, ever would have wanted to hurt her. This never would have happened. You and Colin could have had a beautiful life together. You destroyed that. You ruined your life, your family's lives, our lives, and crushed the hearts of many more. When you shot Moriah in the heart, you shot me in my heart. You shot Eric and Matt in their hearts. You shot Moriah's cousins and aunts and uncles, and all the people who loved her. Pierced their hearts.
All in all, John, we covered that every good true crime story starts with a 911 call. You covered the aspects of that and how heroic her bestie was in that. We also talked about the 90-minute development of an actual defendant and then the subsequent year of investigating after that convicted her and got her 90 years in jail. And then, of course, the fact that before this all started, Kaitlin Armstrong did everything in her power to try to escape to another country. She was recovered by marshals, and then she tried to escape right here within the United States a mere 19 days before she was supposed to face the music for what she did. So, God rest Moriah's soul, and I hope that the family can recover, though there's never an easy feeling about this. There's never a recovery that comes with this, but to the best that it can, I wish them nothing but goodness.
Kaitlin's behavior after she was interviewed all the way leading up to her trial showed that she was completely remorseless and that she would do anything to the point of altering her own appearance in order to escape responsibility for what she did. At no point was she interested in facing the music. Was she no point interested in facing Moriah's mother? And Moriah delivered a very poignant and heartfelt speech pointing out not only that we have lost someone special in Moriah Wilson, not just as an engineer or cyclist, but as a kind person. The world has far too few people who are kind like that. And just the long list of vicarious victims who were also tragically wounded the day that Moriah Wilson was killed.
911 emergency, police or paramedics.
He's going westbound on foot. Westbound on foot.